I'm Kaylee, and this is my reading wrap-up for 30 books in 30 days in September. I have to tell you that I did not read 30 books in 30 days in September. I actually read 32 books. There were a couple of books that came in the mail that I had ordered, and I just got so super excited that I just went ahead and read those as well. Before we dive into all the books that I read in September, I'm going to reach back here to our Booktuber Shoutout book, and we're going to shout out somebody randomly. Today's shout out goes to Miriam Elizabeth Reads. I will leave a link to their channel in the description. Be sure to go over and subscribe to them. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to this channel and give this video a thumbs up if you had some great reading in the month of September. And of course, follow me over on Goodreads and Instagram and Storygraph and all the places. So one of the books that came in the mail was this picture book called The Library by Sarah Stewart. This is just so adorable, beautiful end papers about this girl who just, all she wants to do is read all the time. And she basically buries herself in a house full of books until she can't even get out the front door because it is just completely blocked by all the books that she has. This was completely adorable, and I loved it. And I had a pre-order of the new Percy Jackson book, The Wrath of the Triple Goddess. I adore Percy Jackson so much, and I am loving these new additions to the Percy Jackson series. In this new series, Percy Jackson needs 3 recommendation letters from the gods in order to get into the same college that Annabeth is going to. And so he has to do these quests and these favors for the gods to get them to write him a recommendation letter. In this book, they are having to pet sit a goddess's pets, a hellhound and a polecat. And these pets are terrifying and not very friendly. I just love this. This is everything that I loved about the original Percy Jackson series. I love Percy's sarcasm and sass. I love the group dynamic between Percy and Annabeth and Grover. It's just like the original trio is back together again. They make such a great team. And I love seeing more of Percy just hanging out at home with his mom, just being a family. And of course, I love the adventurous plot. The writing is hilarious and wonderful. And I always enjoy learning about these ancient legends of the gods. There is just something so delightfully charming and hilarious about Percy Jackson books. It tugs at your heart and it makes you laugh at the same time. I gave this 5 stars. Absolutely fabulous. I read this all in one day. So that's one good thing that came out of Hurricane Helene was that I had no electricity. I had nothing to do for 2 days and I just read through this all in one day. One of the books from my Wrapped Books challenge is The Giant Rat of Sumatra. The Giant Rat of Sumatra is the name of a pirate ship that has a rat as its figurehead. And there is a 12-year-old cabin boy who is nicknamed Shipwreck because he was saved from a shipwreck by the pirates. So he's not really with the pirates, and he's not really loyal to the pirates, but he doesn't wish them ill because, I mean, they saved his life, so he does kind of owe them something. They drop anchor in San Diego, and the captain declares that he's going to give up piracy and he's going to take up ranching. And Shipwreck, the boy, decides to stick around for a little while and try to earn enough money to somehow get back to his family in Boston. I really liked the adventurous plot and the historical setting. Because Shipwreck is an American, he's terrified that he's going to be arrested by the Mexicans as a spy, because at this point, Mexico and America are at war. It's definitely an interesting exploration of what do pirates do when they stop being pirates. We get to see the captain trying to get his rancho started up. I gave this one 3.5 stars. I took off a 1/2 star because some of the plot twists were just really predictable. Otherwise, it would have been a 4-star book. I read Missionary Stories from Around the World. So these are just short little biographies of some famous missionaries. I grew up as a missionary kid, and so these are just very close to my heart. These are written for children, so they're very simplified. If you read like the full biography or just the full story of some of these missionaries, There's a lot of things that are left out in this book. Maybe it's too scary for children, it's not quite appropriate for children, or just, when you're doing a 10 or 15 page story, you just can't include everything. But some of the missionaries include Nate Saint and Jim Elliott, Amy Carmichael, Gladys Pearson, Hudson Taylor, David Livingston, John Newton, Charles Spurgeon, and my favorite missionary, David Brainerd. I cried through pretty much this entire book. These stories are just so moving, and many of these missionaries had very tragic lives. In the midst of their spiritual triumphs, there was a lot of sorrow. It's incredibly inspiring, but it can also be difficult to read about. I gave this 4 stars because some of the writing just seems really awkward. I get that they're trying to simplify it for children, but I feel like it could have been a little bit better written. I also read The Other Shepards. This was another book from my Wrapped Books challenge. So 2 sisters, Geneva and Holland, are just living in the shadow of their deceased siblings who died before these 2 girls were even born. Everyone they meet seems to have a story about their siblings who are gone. Annie is a painter who comes to their home to help them paint a large mural in their kitchen. And Geneva and Holland just seem to find a kind of freedom in her company. And Annie encourages them to express themselves and begin to heal. This is a very interesting exploration of grief, because how do you grieve for someone that died before you were born, someone you never met? But how do you move on with your life when everything around you seems to remind you of them, but you have no actual memories of them? So the girls find it difficult to deal with their parents' grief. And they're very curious about the past because people compare them to their older siblings. I did find this interesting, but there's just not really a lot going on in the plot. They kind of wander around and they talk, and just not very much happens. The writing is definitely thoughtful. The characters are well developed, but I sort of found myself skimming through some of the descriptive paragraphs. It is a good story. I just think maybe it didn't quite grab my attention because it's just not my style of story. It's not the kind of thing that I usually gravitate towards. So I gave this 2.5 stars. I also read The Lemonade War. This is about a brother and sister who start a competition to see who can make the most money with a lemonade stand in their neighborhood. So Evan is extroverted, he's popular, he really knows how to talk to people, he's great at getting those customers to come over and buy some lemonade. But Jessie is a math genius. She is great at organizing the business to make the optimal sales. They are both determined to win and prove that they are the best, but underneath, they really want to reconcile and heal their relationship. There are a lot of misunderstandings between Evan and Jessie, resulting in the war. I just love how complex their personalities are, and we get to see a lot of really great character development for both of them. I just love stories about siblings, and this story perfectly captures that weird balance that siblings have between love and complete annoyance. Nobody can drive you crazy like your siblings. The plot is really engaging with lots of twists and turns. The center of the plot, though, is these 2 siblings growing animosity towards each other and then their final reconciliation. I really like the way that the writing switches POVs between the 2 siblings. We get to see from each of their perspectives what is going on in the war. This is such a fun book, and I gave it 4 stars. The rest of the books in this video are books that I received from a publisher or from the author in exchange for a free and honest review. So I have both volumes 1 and 2 of Record of Lodoss War, The Crown of the Covenant. In the first book, Prince Lyle is on a quest to find the high elf Deedlit, hoping that she can stop a war from happening between the island nations. So the ruler of each nation is magically bound to uphold peace. They have a covenant of peace when they are crowned with a special magic crown. However, the dukes and the lords and the nobles of the land are not bound by that covenant of peace. And so war is looming on the island, and Prince Lyle is determined to stop the bloodshed. However, his siblings have some plans of their own, and so they kind of have their own schemes going on in the background. I was interested in the magic and the world building, but the plot just drags really, really slow. There is a lot of exposition that goes on for pages and pages about this duke and that king and these political history things between these nations, and it was just too much. It got to be so boring. The only character that I cared about was Prince Lyle. So I was bored with a lot of the long scenes of his siblings. They're spying or they're talking to some ambassador. And it's just, I didn't care about any of them. I just only cared about Prince Lyle. The artwork is really, really beautiful. Just page after page of gorgeous, gorgeous artwork. And Prince Lyle is a very inspiring character. He has a really positive outlook. He is a dreamer, and he truly believes that he can save his country with high ideals and courage. And he has some friends who are really sweet and funny, and I liked their scenes together. I gave both of these volumes 3 stars. In this volume especially, though, the plot really got on my nerves. In both of these volumes, really, because the plot sets up these big obstacles for the characters and like, oh no, here's the big scary forest or the big scary bad guys, and then the characters just get over the obstacles really easily, really quickly, and so there's just no weight to the story. It feels like the stakes are really low. I was just kind of disappointed in the plot. I guess I was looking for more adventure. So both of these get 3 stars. Some good points, some points that just wasn't for me, but pretty good. 3 stars. I read the second book in the Shermy and Shake series, The Not So New Kid. So Shermy likes to have things orderly and quiet, and Shake is very loud and chaotic, but somehow these 2 kids have become friends. But when Shake joins Shermy's class at school, their new friendship is definitely tested. Shermy wishes that he could be the leader in the class, but because Shake is louder and more extroverted, he's really popular. Through their schoolwork and sports and holidays, these 2 friends have to learn to be patient with each other and have a little bit of grace and find a way to communicate better. I really like the character development as the boys learn to get along. And instead of it being one long cohesive story, it's actually broken up into smaller stories. So you can see it goes September, October, and November. And I liked that format. We get kind of these little snippets of them kind of dealing with some sort of situation or some kind of scenario where they have different goals and they have to learn to work together. This series is completely adorable, just so sweet, and lots of really positive messages. I gave it 4 stars. I also read Ava Lin, Best Friend. Ava Lin is starting 1st grade and she is determined to find a best friend. She thinks that one girl in her class maybe could be her best friend, but then there is a misunderstanding about a sparkly plastic jewel, and everything just seems to go wrong. This book is so adorable. I love how Ava Lin is like a real little kid. Like, the way that she thinks is this kind of convoluted thinking that gets little kids in trouble, and you're like, what is wrong with you? How did you do that? How did you end up there with that mess and everything? And like, well, it made perfect sense at the time to Ava Lin. It made perfect sense to stick something in your ear and get it stuck and then have to go to the doctor. Kids just have their own weird way of thinking about things. And I even remember being that way when I was a kid. Like, it made perfect sense to me. I don't know how I got in this situation, you know? It's just so funny, and that's just perfectly captures how little kids think. I loved the really cute illustrations and designs in this book. Completely adorable. This is perfect for new readers who are just starting to read chapter books on their own. Absolutely adorable, and I gave it 4 stars. I read 3 Tasks for a Dragon. This is absolutely so beautiful. Lovely end papers, beautiful designs, gorgeous illustrations, just incredible. And I love like the fantasy, you know, it's just, oh, it's so wonderful. And it's really pretty without its dust jacket as well. Just like, oh, it's so beautiful inside and out. So this tale starts out when the queen will banish Prince Lear from the kingdom unless he can complete a quest and rescue a maiden from the dragon. His stepbrother encourages him to try the quest, even though Lear is more of a scholar rather than a warrior. So the prince travels to the Isle of Salt, and he finds the dragon sickly and weak in a damp, dark cavern. The dragon has lost his fire, his wing is broken, but I mean, he's still a dragon. He could still kill a knight with just one slash of his claws. And the maiden, Kathleen, used to be a servant girl in Lear's kingdom, and now she has to serve the dragon by treading on dark cherries in the wine press to make the dragon's cherry wine. So the scholarly knight, the humble maiden, and the old dragon meet for the first time. These three unlikely allies will discover that dark magic is hiding where they least expect it, and so they must join together if they want to be free. I just love this fairy tale. The plot, it's very, very clever. It's just, the story never quite goes where you think it's going to go. But it still has a lot of those classic elements of fairy tales that you would expect to see in good fantasy. The writing is enchanting in every way. And I especially like that there's this sense of history in the world building. Like there's these legends from the past. And we get to learn about the ancient kings and what they did and the ancient dragons. Lear especially is kind of looking to the wisdom of the ancient peoples of his kingdom. It gives him a sense of the longevity of his people, and it gives him guidance for his own decisions. Kathleen has her own part to play in the story as well. During her time with the dragon on the Isle of Salt, she discovers that she has a secret strength that will change everything for these three. The artwork is absolutely brilliant, absolutely beautiful. Every page is a complete delight. Sometimes I just had to stop reading and just stare at the artwork for a little while. I love how the art is just full of energy. Like there's just kind of a mystery there. It's really powerful. It perfectly matches the tone of the story as well. I gave this book 4 stars. And then I read The Pinchers and the Diamond Heist. The Pincher family are all thieves and liars. They love to steal and cheat, except for Theo. Theo gets a stomachache every time that he tries to tell a lie. And it doesn't help that their next door neighbor is a policeman. So when Mr. and Mrs. Pincher leave Theo and his sister at home alone and they go to see a diamond exhibit, Theo worries that they might be planning to steal the diamond. This book is so hilarious. It was just really funny, because the characters are doing the opposite of what would be normal. They're encouraging their kids to lie and steal. And poor Theo, he just doesn't fit in. He's just too honest and good. This book just had me laughing and chuckling at all the silly escapades that Theo and his sister get into. And I love the fun illustrations in every chapter, really cute. This is a really fun book, and I gave it 4 stars. So once I finished all the 30 books that I had on my TBR for September, I still had like 2 or 3 days of reading to go. I finished early because a lot of these are just so short that I would just read 2 or 3 in a day. And then of course Hurricane Helene came around and I had nothing to do. So I got ahead with some of my reading and then read Percy Jackson. And then I also started Prisoners of Thornbrill. This is part of the Tendoria Chronicles by Hannah Pennington. So I'm currently on page 48, still working my way through this one, but I love that it has a really cool map. It looks like a cookie with a bite taken out. This is about Melanie, who discovers a dragon egg and then gets whisked away to a magical land. So far, I'm enjoying it quite a lot, and I'll be finishing this one up in the next few days. If you want to hear about the other books that I read, you can always go back and look at my weekly wrap-ups for the 30 Books in 30 Days Readathon. And I've also done some individual review videos for the Shakespeare that I read and the Agatha Christie books that I read. But all the books that I read all together were Ellie in First Position, Agatha Christie's Appointment with Death, Shakespeare's As You Like It, Agatha Christie's Hickory Dickory Dock, The Ballad of Ronan, Outpost Zero, The Nameless City, The Stone Heart, The Divided Earth, Be Ever Hopeful Hannah Lee, Al Capone, Water Sky, Queenie Peavy, Shakespeare's Henry V, Los Cuentos de Beetle el Bardo, The Pale Horse, another Agatha Christie, Crimson Twill, Witch in the Country, Family Time, King of the Wind, Julius Caesar by Shakespeare, The Giant Rat of Sumatra, The Pinchers and the Diamond Heist, The Other Shepards, Missionary Stories, Ava Lin, Best Friend, The Lemonade War, 3 Tasks for a Dragon, Shermy and Shake, The Not So New Kid, Record of Lodoss War, numbers 1 and 2, The Library, and Percy Jackson, Wrath of the Triple Goddess. Those are the 32 books that I read in September. Please leave me a comment and let me know, did you participate in the 30 Books in 30 Days readathon? Did you read 30 books or did you just read for 30 minutes each day? Let me know how your reading went in September. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and remember, the right book in the right hands at the right time can change the world.